Some cars lose value. These lost their dignity. One copied a better car and still failed to matter. Another made cheap convertible ownership feel like punishment. And one Holden became a used car trap people still regret buying today. Welcome to the 13 worthless Australian cars you should avoid, starting with this forgotten badge job. Toyota launched the Avalon in June 2000, and the timing was suspicious. To make room at Altona, Toyota shut down local Corolla production. The Corolla, eventually Australia's best-selling car, was pulled from the line to accommodate a front-wheel drive sedan with a 3.0-litre V6 nobody had specifically requested. It wasn't unreliable or unpleasant. It was a warmed-over first-generation American Avalon from 1994, arriving 6 years stale. Front-wheel drive placed it nowhere near a Falcon or Commodore buyer, and a 2003 facelift critics called unsuccessful confirmed the writing was on the wall. Toyota eventually marketed it to taxi fleets. Automotive shorthand for "the public has given up." Production ended in 2005, replaced by the Orion, which required no Corolla sacrifice to produce. The Holden Apollo was a Toyota Camry wearing a Holden badge. That is the entire story. Toyota built it at Altona from 1989 under the Button Plan. Holden applied their lion to the nose and expected that to be enough. For buyers wanting a Camry, it wasn't. They walked past and bought the real thing. Toyota reliability with a Toyota badge meant something. The same reliability with a Holden badge on a car that felt like neither meant considerably less. As a collector's car today, the Apollo is invisible. Nobody chases the knockoff version of something they could own the genuine article of. Its value sits somewhere between conversation piece and parts donor, a remarkable outcome for something so completely inoffensive. The Lexcen was a Holden Commodore wearing a Toyota badge, built at Dandenong from 1989 under the same Button Plan logic that produced the Apollo. Commodore bones with Toyota branding seemed like it might appeal to someone. In practice, it appealed to almost nobody. Commodore buyers wanted a Commodore, not a detour through Toyota, especially with the identical car available from Holden down the road. Lexcen buyers got rear-wheel drive Commodore bones with none of Toyota's engineering input and none of their reliability reputation. Discontinued in 1997, it sits today in exactly the same collector's purgatory as the Apollo, neither desirable enough to pursue nor unusual enough to become genuinely interesting. A functional car that managed to be wanted by essentially no one. Coming up a Nissan, so forgotten historians called it pathetic while it was still being built, and a family car so confusing that Holden's own customers weren't sure what it was trying to be. The Pintara came in 2 generations and both failed to win Australian hearts. The first, from 1986, was a 4-cylinder R31 Skyline variant built at Clayton, a Skyline with the excitement removed. The second, from 1989, was a front-wheel drive U12 Bluebird, aimed at Camry and Magna buyers who had no compelling reason to choose it. Under the Button Plan, Ford sold the U12 as the Corsair. When both quietly collapsed in the market, Nissan's Clayton factory shut permanently in 1992. The Pintara has since been called pathetic by automotive historians, which is either brutal honesty or a fitting tribute to a car that managed to be forgotten while still being built. Not dangerous, just deeply, comprehensively unwanted throughout its entire production run. The Holden Vectra arrived in 1997 as an Opel Vectra with a Holden badge, sitting in a confusing position. Too European for Holden loyalists, not prestigious enough for genuine European import buyers. Their own customers were never quite sure what to do with it. Timing belt replacements, electrical gremlins, stalling faults, and the general misery of sourcing aging European components turned ownership into an adventure nobody signed up for. Some were locally assembled, giving it a tenuous Australian connection that didn't help. Now elderly, cheap, and widely available, A low-priced Vectra is not the bargain it appears. One properly diagnosed fault can consume the entire purchase price and then some. The correct response to a suspiciously affordable Vectra is to keep driving. We are entering the top 8, and things get uglier from here, including a Ford with a nose-heavy 6 that a major website called a lemon, and a Commodore 4-cylinder whose nickname was not a compliment. The TF Cortina arrived in April 1980 and was discontinued by 1981. It was the Mark V Cortina, with the same big Falcon 6-cylinder engines Ford had been fitting to Cortinas since the TC series, a formula that never quite worked and somehow never quite stopped. Fitting a 4.1-liter Falcon 6 into a body designed for a European 4 made the nose pay, publicly described as ill-handling and unwieldy. With dubious build quality, it dived under braking and wandered on uneven surfaces. Rust attacked sills and floor pans with enthusiasm. It sold poorly, handled badly in 6-cylinder form, and disappeared in 12 months. A brief, unhappy Australian chapter that Ford buried as fast as it could. The TM Magna won Wheels Car of the Year in 1985 and deserved it. Widened 65mm from the Japanese Gallant and re-engineered for Australian roads, the first Magna was genuinely impressive. Then buyers started living with the automatic transmission. The early 4-speed automatic was a documented failure. The housing wore rapidly, requiring full replacement. Head gaskets leaked, timing chains rattled, and blocks cracked around core plugs. Cars Guide noted the automatic problems, struck it down almost as soon as the TM hit the road. A well-maintained manual one is worth tracking down. A neglected automatic is a gambling problem with registration plates. The difference between a bargain and a bill is almost entirely which transmission sits behind that 2.6-liter Astron engine. Built at Broadmeadows from 1989, the Ford Capri was Australia's homegrown answer to the MX-5. Instead, it became a specific category of regret, the Australian convertible disaster. The soft-top fabric split in service, triggering a recall to replace it with European material. Water pooled on the floor pans. Rust started attacking brand-new cars simply because it rained. Now add scuttle shake, squeaks, heavy torque steer on the turbo, and a base engine producing just 81 horsepower, and every comparison to the MX-5 became actively cruel. Cheap Capris are everywhere today, each one a negotiation between genuine curiosity value and the real possibility the next rainstorm becomes a plumbing emergency. They are interesting. They are interesting in exactly the same way a leaking boat is interesting. The top 5, all of them Australian family cars that were supposed to represent progress. What they actually represented was a repair bill, including one that Ford spent $600 million on before the quality control department showed up. The EA Falcon launched in 1988 as Ford's boldest statement in years. Genuinely modern aerodynamic design on a fresh platform after years of conservative Falcons. It looked like the future. Quality control had apparently not received the same investment as the styling department. Head gasket failures became the EA's defining reputation. Overheating, often traced to casting sand left in the engine block during manufacturing, was widespread and expensive. Electrical faults and automatic transmission problems accumulated rapidly, sending buyers back to dealers with complaints. The mechanicals improved substantially through the EB and later updates, but the early damage was self-inflicted. What should have been a triumphant new chapter became a national lesson in what happens when ambition consistently outpaces quality control. The Sunbird launched in 1976 on the LX Tirana platform, using a 1.9-liter Opel-sourced 4-cylinder inherited from the LC and LJ Tirana. The UC version followed in 1978 with a locally made 1.9-liter Starfire 4. Neither was quick, refined, nor economical for its size. Tirana adjacent styling lured buyers expecting performance character. What arrived was a Tirana-shaped vehicle with an engine chosen to disappoint. The Starfire unit was harsh and unrefined, the same four-cylinder that would embarrass Holden again in the VC Commodore a few years later. The Sunbird cemented its legacy as the bargain bin Tirana that couldn't justify being the cheap option in a market where Japanese imports were already proving that affordable and slow were not compulsory companions. If the Sunbird's crime was a tiny engine in a bigger-looking car, the VC Starfire applied that logic to a full-size Commodore. During the 1979 oil crisis, Holden removed 2 cylinders from the existing 6 to create a 1.9-liter inline-4. The nickname that spread was Misfire. The engine was so gutless that drivers had to flog it to keep pace with traffic, destroying the fuel economy advantage it was supposed to deliver. A Commodore that neither cruised comfortably nor saved petrol had failed at both jobs simultaneously. When the anticipated fuel crisis failed to arrive at the predicted scale, buyers abandoned the Starfire. Discontinued after 2 years, it left no fans, no legacy, and no convincing explanation for why it was ever approved. The Camira's reputation arrived before most owners had finished paying for theirs. Launched in 1982 on GM's J platform as Holden's fuel-efficient future, the JB delivered its failures with a visibility that bordered on performance art. The 1.6-liter engine had catastrophic piston ring sealing failures, burning oil on brand new cars. Body sealant shrank around the firewall, letting water into the floors before buyers reached 12 months of ownership. Manual gearboxes jumped out of second and third gear at highway speed. Crash safety rated significantly below average. Multiple publications named it among the worst cars ever sold. The Camira didn't just fail, it became Australia's permanent reference point for automotive catastrophe. The example deployed whenever someone needs an illustration of how badly things can go. The Camira is history's problem. The Cruze is right now on Facebook Marketplace, looking presentable, listed as well maintained by someone who has visited the dealer about the transmission more times than they're saying. The JH Cruze, assembled in Adelaide on Daewoo Engineering from 2011, accumulated problems methodically. The 1.4-liter turbo's PCV valve failed before 80,000 kilometers so consistently Holden had to redesign it. Oil-contaminated coolant through cracked coolers. Transmission failures were so widespread that Holden extended the warranty to 150,000 kilometers. Multiple recalls followed. The RAC warned consumers away from locally built Holdens, with the Cruze as the headline example. Buy one cheaply today and the next workshop invoice may cost more than the car. That is number one. That's 13 Australian cars that prove cheap and smart are not always the same thing. But which one deserves the worst reputation? Did you own any of these, or did one somehow treat you well? Type it in the comments, give the video a like, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.